You're welcome to another program from the Sompon Social Service. You're welcome. Thank you for tuning in. And today we are having the program Let's Help You. Sompon Social Service is a social institution, and we are a recognized body for children and youth. And we have diverse programs to help young people. And I think I'm having a repeat. Something is repeating behind me. Can someone hear me? Can you hear me? Someone is repeating behind me. Okay. Can someone hear me? Yes. I think it's okay now. I hope so. Sorry for that. I was hearing myself doubled. So you're welcome back again. Uh, okay. I have to go back. Can you hear me, Mommy Maria? Okay. I see where I had my mistakes. Sorry for that. I think at the back part of my laptop was it was playing on the YouTube. So I welcome all those who are watching from the YouTube as well. And I'm welcoming you who is tuning in now on the Facebook page, Sompon Social Service. I was saying before you're tuning in now that the Let's Help You program has been created and designed from the Sompon Social Service, a team of different people, social workers, families, parents who have come out together with this program to be able to help um, the migrants in general, but particularly the Africans in our community, because we have realized that there's a lot of problems going on there in the community, and actually very few social workers and professionals are involved. It is as well good to have all those who are involved and helping with diverse groups, diverse institutions, but it's also very good when professionals are on board. And today we want to welcome you all. We're having a special guest today, and we are very sorry because we have changed the program today. For those who have seen the program before or who heard the program before, we had a wonderful moderator who was supposed to moderate the program, Charity Warimo, who is having a very important work to do and wants to concentrate on the program Domestic Violence, a business program that she's coming up with, and I'm very sure that you're going to like it when she comes up with that. So we're working hand in hand to see that she succeeds in bringing up that wonderful program, Domestic Violence. And I'm sure that you will like it. So I welcome you, ladies and gentlemen, today. And we are having a guest speaker today who is Maria Kaine, somebody not new in the family. You know Maria Kaine. She's a lawyer, a wife, and a mother of 10 children. Who else can talk on this topic than Maria Kaine, who is not only a legalist, someone who is in jurisdictional field, but also someone who is experienced in the area of work. Welcome with me, Maria Kaine. I welcome you, Maria. How are you today?
I'm fine, Vera. Always nice to be here with you. And let
It's
me
a
just correct that it's 11 children, not that one place neglected. Or
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I always still have to remind myself of the fact that it's 11 children. But what made me forget one? I can't remember why I left one behind. Thank you
oh,
so much. You're welcome. But how did you do this? You're a powerful woman. I mean, now that you've even corrected me on the fact that you have 11, how did you manage these 11 children? I'm having just two, and I'm having the impression that the whole world is coming on my head.
Vera, I always say the stress goes up to here. There's no more. You can't be
Mhm.
more stressed than stressed out. So, two children, one child, it goes to there and no more. So, I don't think it's really so much different. It's all just more, the
My
same.
word. And what fascinates me about you, and I'm still, when people call me and they're asking, how do you manage this and that and that, and how do you do this? And I'm always like, you better go ask Maria Kaine how she manages what she's doing. Because she's not only a mother, she's also engaged almost everywhere I know. She's in church, she's in organization, she's in functions here and there. And if you really want to know how she does it or how I do it, you better start asking her how she does it. How do you cope? God carrying
An
all this
extra program for that.
together.
No.
Thank you so much. Today we are talking on child abuse, and I went to Google just to get myself
Yeah.
curious and inform myself again on child abuse, and especially looking at the content in which we are talking about child abuse. We live in the diaspora in Germany, and the different challenges, different cultural upbringing, the way we bring up our children are quite different from the way maybe we have been taught back home. And so a lot of challenges come in somewhere along the line. I said we have German children at home, and then we are educating them with an African way of doing, which becomes so confusing at times for the kids. But the question is, what is child abuse? And on the process, I got a definition too, on Wikipedia, and it says child abuse or child maltreatment is a physical, sexual, and or psychological maltreatment or neglect of a child or children, especially by a parent or a caregiver. Child abuse may include any act or failure to act by a parent or a caregiver that results in actual or potential harm to a child and can occur in a child's home or in an organization, school, and so on. What do you think? Is that child abuse? Is this definition you
Yeah,
concur to this
super.
definition?
I mean, it includes virtually everything. And often people think of child abuse, they only think of the commission part. But you see here also the omission can be child abuse. Not always when you do something like hitting a child, but also when you fail to do what you have to do for a child. It can also be child abuse. Super definition.
Wow, this is amazing. And most people also in our community, they really have a problem with the youth officer coming into their affairs to govern the affairs of the family. Have you observed that in the community? We call that the Jugendamt.
Yes, I think our people have this fear, and the fear is not always ungrounded, but it's a bit exaggerated. This fear
Mhm,
that, and not just our people, generally immigrants, that once they come into your house, they're going to take away your children. That fear is really there, and I think, quite honestly, almost every parent entertains such fear at one time or the other.
mhm. Um, why should we entertain this fear? If we have information about the job of the government and of the authorities, can it reduce the fears from the parents if we
Mm,
really know what their assignment is?
that's one thing. First, most people don't know what their assignments are, and they believe they are there to take away the children. They have this belief, when stories go around, they just want to take away the children. Second,
Mhm,
parents that have experiences with Jugendamt, they don't really give the whole narrative of what happened. Like, for
mhm,
instance, if a child is taken away from a family,
mhm,
when they are telling their friends or their community, they don't really narrate what happened, that it was a long process that led to death, or what actually happened before the child was taken away. So this is just like rumors, how they start going around, and
mhm,
everybody starts to believe it. I mean, see the same thing now with COVID-19.
mhm,
Can you believe that in the whole world, there are people that believe it exists and people that believe it doesn't exist? So too it is
mhm,
with this Jugendamt and children being taken away. There are rumors that are set into the world, and people believe it, and some people just don't know what to believe.
Mhm. Now, I brought this section one of the Child Protection Right and Family Right or Youth Work from the section of the Youth Work, section one, which really describes the role of the responsibilities of the parent and the responsibilities of the youth officers or the community officer. And it really describes that the parents are the ones that are the first responsible people. Unless they fail in their assignments, then the government comes in, like the community, the young youth organization, the youth offices comes in, not to take away the child, but to actually help the parents so that they can properly function in their role as parents. Nonetheless, we have many people who really to go about doing some things and they think that the youth or the youth center do not have the right. Unfortunately, in Germany, after the parents come the youth center or the youth government or the youth officer, and the youth officers is like the boss over the parents. So the watch is that the children are really being taken care of, right? I brought two cases with me. One, you're a lawyer per profession and you're a mother. So I thought to myself that it would have been good if we had two cases to discuss on because the two cases have come to us for counseling and I know that they have had a lot of troubles and many people are having that same trouble. The first case study I brought today was a mother who keeps a 5 years old child at home and goes to work. The child is at home alone. Surely the child spends the whole day sitting in front of the television. I'm sure and I suppose that the mother has put plates of food on the table for the child and guided the child how to go about, if at all. And then watching it and said, if someone's knocked the door, do not open the door until I come back home. What do you think? Is that child abuse
Yes,
or not?
certainly, that's child abuse. And Vera, before we go into this case, I'd just like to say something. You know, we parents have to understand that the government is involved in every child because every child is a human being. And you only have responsibility of the child till latest 18. You don't you see it's now an individual in the state, and that's why you have to know that your period as a parent is just limited. So there are people controlling you. That child is a human being, has rights just like you do. And if you as a parent are infringing on the right of your child, the state will come in, just like if two adults, one is infringing on the other. So now in this
Mhm,
case, this is obviously a case of child abuse. And most parents in diaspora, they don't know it, but you know, it's always good until something goes wrong. But
mhm,
keeping the child alone, that child is not protected adequately. If anything goes wrong, outbreak of a fire or anything, that child has no protection. If the child injures itself, might not be even able to call the police or ambulance or anything.
mhm,
The child is not being supervised. The child is not, you know, as a parent, you also have this duty to train your child, expose it, allow it to develop itself mentally, emotionally to the best
mhm,
of the child's ability. But when you
mhm,
leave a child on its own, then you see there's hardly any development. You are not performing your role as a parent to educate your child or develop your child mentally, emotionally, or in any other way. The child is being neglected, and neglect is also child abuse and can lead to many other things. Not
mhm,
even considering somebody, a neighbor, somebody may knock on the door, enter there, abuse the child, or the child may be exposed to pornography or something over the mobile phone or so. So leaving a child alone is not just child abuse in itself, but also enabling different kind of child abuse to take place. So it's
mhm.
really, really wrong.
So now, what would you? We are saying, let's help you. We want to help the family. So a mother is here listening to us, and she will be saying, "But well, I have always left my child. My child is very good, obedient. If I tell my child to sit here, my child will just sit there, and I go to work and come back." What would you advise such a parent?
What would you advise a thief that goes out to steal every day? Would you say you might be caught tomorrow, or be smart about it to get caught? I mean, it's a criminal offense. So what do you advise somebody doing a criminal act? You have to stop it. Parents have to find a way. Maybe with friends, you may have a friend or someone who can take care of your child. You pay less, or go to the appropriate authorities and say you need a care for your child, or put your child in a daycare or something. But leaving your child alone, that's criminal.
Do we have are there other options whereby you already spoke about getting a nanny that is maybe cost free or cost very cheap? What about other offers? Are there other offers where the government can also come in, where you can go to the government and say, I really need support for this? Do we have other support systems like that?
I guess I think you have here targets, motor, things like that, and then daycares all day. But see, this even these facilities are limited, because if you start work at if you have to leave the house at 5 in the morning, or you're working in the night, who is going to take care of your child? So yes, there are facilities, and I think most women know where they are. But the problem is that some women are not just realistic about the job they want to do and how it can fit in with your family. If your husband is working on shift or working full time, what time does he leave the house? You have to be ready
Mm-hmm.
to know. I mean, not just the women, it's the responsibility of both parents. How can you relate it together? If the man has to go to work at 8, then he can drop the children off. But if you're a single mother, or it's not possible, then as sad as it is, you can't take that job. There are
Exactly.
things that are
I
just
mean,
not possible.
I don't seem to see why it is hard because in Germany there are all other options for support, other support systems. So even if you don't get the complete financial sustenance now because you're not working, but there is a financial support system too that you can get at least a minimum, hoping that when your child is 3 years old or when the child is going to school, you can be able to put that child in school and then take the job that fits also your time schedule, right?
Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. And I think with daycares and help that one has, you can get a job, but probably not certain jobs or certain hours. There's also the possibility of working part time or 6 rather than 8 hours. Some employers are very friendly toward family, so you just have to find a job that suits your family circumstance.
There's a case, I made a case of a young lady once who told me she keeps her child at home and she goes to work and she closes all the doors. And when she was explaining this to me, I'm a social worker. I was like within me, I will just take you. I will not just go and report myself. I will just keep quiet and just write an anonymous letter and send to the. If I was that wicked, you just write an anonymous letter, sent to the youth center, and they will just come and check the family even when you're at home, and they will give you all the proofs. And this is exactly what happens usually, and people now get to complain that they are taking their children. And when I was explaining to her, I told her, what you're doing, you're now telling me the story, but unfortunately or fortunately for you, I am telling you now so that you should be careful. Next time, you don't have to do this again, because if you do this and the next person is aware of it, your children can go. You know what she said? No way, no possible. My God is a living God. And I'm like looking at her, I'm like, God, what has God now got to do with this one? You are violating a law here, and then I'm giving you what can happen as consequences, and you're telling me not possible. My God will defend me. So, how do we help these people who see everything spiritual, even the things that are religious, even the things they are supposed to handle by themselves?
Well, you should have told her that the children also have a living God. And
Amen.
who is God going to protect? The one that is being abused, the victim. This problem of spirituality, that's one hard topic in Africa. A lot of things going on. We have a lot of very good pastors, but unfortunately, some black sheep. And then some people just translate religion wrong. Or probably she learned this from her parents too. But forgetting that the setup in Africa is totally different from the setup here in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Because in Africa, there are a lot of neighbors, they are there,
Mm-hmm.
depending on how you live, it's like a
Mm-hmm.
community together. So even though you're not in the house, the child will be with the neighbor or something. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's like very much isolated. Every family is isolated. So you
Mm-hmm.
you are responsible for everything in your family. There's no in-laws, families, or neighbors helping you per se. So
Mm-hmm.
people, we can only help them by what you are doing now. Keep creating awareness, because some
Mm-hmm.
people don't even know that it's
Mm-hmm.
wrong. We just have to keep creating awareness.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I had another case study that I brought today for us to talk about. Another case study, two parents are fighting, and the environment is extremely loud. It is so lousy, it is really destructive, actually. And why they are fighting, let me put it unconsciously, because I'm sure that you cannot consciously hit your child on the wall and on the ground. Let me put that unconsciously. They hit the child or push the child, and the child fell and broke his skull. Now, they didn't even take the child to the hospital until when they were doing the not normal checkup, and the doctor realized that the skull was broken. What do you think? Can we bring that, also put that into child abuse?
Definitely, child abuse and several crimes being committed all in one
Okay.
package, because when you fight, you get loud in front of children. When you get loud in front of children, it can be like an emotional abuse. Children get scared. You
Mm-hmm.
start fighting in front of children, you're endangering those children. They can get hurt. I mean, it's just
Mm-hmm.
like putting a child on the highway and leaving the child there where cars are passing. That's the same thing you're doing, because in the process of fighting, you can hit the child.
Mm-hmm.
And,
And that was what happened.
and
The
that's
child was hit.
now
Mm-hmm.
people will say, oh, it wasn't intentional. Oh, yes, it was. Because a reasonable person would know that when you are fighting two adults and there's a child in the room, what's the obvious thing that will happen? The child will run to the mother or father, even maybe. You have to
Mm-hmm.
know that the most likely thing that would happen is that that child would get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
It has been happening before. So you can't say it was unintentional, because you knew that it was very, very possible that that was a likely thing that would happen from what you did. So it's not really unintentional because you foresaw it. What
Hmm.
can be unintentional?
This one is your lawyer mind. This is your lawyer mind talking now and defending some
It's
cases.
not unintentional because you foresaw it. It,
Okay.
it could have happened. So it's not unintentional at all. Yes.
This one looks like it's a lawyer in you talking now. Now
Yeah.
let's go to the mother in you talking. Let's go back to the mother talking now. Now that woman comes to you and say, "No, it wasn't intentional. I really did not mean it. My hand just touched and I did not know." How do we handle the situation?
Oh, I would first tell her it was intentional. Bec- it doesn't mean that because it happened, you should lose the child.
That's where I was going to.
And that's where
Yeah.
now that's something else. But she has to be aware that what she did was very wrong, and she can't say it wasn't intentional, because That's the likely thing. It's like me throwing an egg on the floor and saying, oh, I didn't think it would break because there was a rug on the ground. No, she has to know the truth so that it doesn't happen again. She endangers the child. But that doesn't mean parents always make mistakes. That doesn't mean now that the most drastic thing should happen, or that she should be sentenced to prison or something. That's where the authorities would have to come in, depending on the gravity of the case, to find out, well, was it just one fight, or is the family fighting regularly? Because if the parents are regularly fighting, that means that the danger is there, it's not yet removed. That could happen. If you find out that, oh, this was really an exception, you can talk to the parents and say, okay, you'll be careful next time. If it has always been happening, then the authorities have to come in and know, what can we do now? Is it possible with advice or bringing help into the family that this can be corrected? Or will the child not be safe there?
Now you're talking like a social worker. I wonder what you are not, Sister Maria. Now you're a lawyer, you're a social worker now, and then you're talking now like a mother. Indeed, it is a criminal offense, especially when you did not take that child to the hospital for the checkup. And you waited until, so imagine if they didn't have the normal checkup, and if there are some people like me who don't even like going to the doctor, the child would have had internal bleeding and it would have caused something else, you know. So, and when they took the child to the hospital, the doctor discovered. So actually, they themselves still did not discover that something went wrong. Now, we have that one was only a case of the child failed, but alone the environment is not correct. The environment is extremely loud. The environment is an environment full of fighting and beatings. So it means that the child is already endangered. And that's where the Article 8 of the Child Protection Rights comes in. And the Article 8 says that when the child is endangered, who comes in? The government comes in to take the child and to take care of the child. Not to take the child for themselves, no, to take the child, cooperate with the parents, give them the necessary support they need so that they can be able to better bring up the child. Because at the end of the day, the role of the government, the community, is that we bring up young people who are able to be good citizens at the end of the day. And so, like you said before, after 18 years, they are no longer under our care. So they become one part of the citizens. And if we did not really give them the necessary tools, support, strength that they needed to grow up, then they're going to be nuisance in the community. Right? So one, yes, go on, Maria.
You see, Vera, about this part, this is a funny thing. If you notice, very often people commit a crime, sometimes even not with any bad motive, like in this case, they were fighting, But then you see that very often people use more serious crimes to cover a crime. Just like in a case where someone rapes a woman, then so as not to be found out, goes ahead to kill the woman. So you see often that you realize that there was one lesser crime that was committed, and in trying to cover this crime, you commit an even greater crime. Like in this case now, when the child fell, yes, it was negligent and everything. They could have known it would happen. They should have reasoned it would happen. But it wasn't done. They didn't have the intention of hurting the child, but they should have reckoned that it would happen. But now they have committed an even bigger crime by having a child that was injured. Don't take this child for medical care. Now, that is where this is now a real crime with a real criminal intent. Because once a child needs care, as you said, any injury on the head, you don't know the extent of the damage. But out of fear that you will be caught for commit this, very big crime of neglecting, and even alone, even if you didn't hurt your child, when your child needs medical care, if you don't give the child that access to adequate medical care, it's already child abuse. And now
Yes.
doing it with, because the court always looks at the motive behind the crime. You are doing it to cover up your smaller crime and you committed a bigger one. So you see, now this is the part where they really, really goofed, and where the authorities would be really hard on them. This part of, okay, now you did everything. Okay, it happens at home that parents fight. But this part of the neglecting the medical care, that's the most serious part of what happened there.
And effectively, it was really a serious case. This child was taken from them, and then they started running helter skelter to look for help. Now they got the support, and then, like, the government always has to do everything so that you get the strength, the care, and everything to be able to take care of your child. I must say again to this: the role of the government is not to take care of the child. It's not
No,
the assignment. I mean, they have a lot of assignment. So most parents really think that the German government just wants to take care or take their children away from them. It is not usually true. That is a half story. So the truth is that if there is neglect of any kind, and now maybe in your country you were neglected upon and you did not consider that as neglect. You had one time a day food, and it was normal for you. You come down here and you're giving the child one time a day food. That is also neglect. you
of
know
course,
so for you, it is not neglect, but for the government, it is neglect, because they are giving you the necessary funds for you to support the child. That's why they give you even the what do we call that in English? It's kindergarten. They give you
yeah,
the child financial support so that they can support you with the child, and now you're giving the child one food per day. I mean, that's also neglect. You're leaving the child at home without any necessary care. That's also neglect. They gave you that money so that if something is with the child, if you need an extra daycare, extra nanny, so that you can go rest somewhere, pay for it. Now you deny to do all this because you want to train up a child like the African way, the African neglect, the African mediocrity, the African way of doing things. And when the government comes in, not because they want to take your child away from you, because they want to help you, to my dismay, many parents fall short of accepting this help. Do you know why? Why they refuse really to cooperate at this point so that they can get back their children?
as well, you just answered that question, because they don't really realize that what they did is really wrong. Of course, when you grow up in a system, like when we were growing up in Africa, it was normal in our time. You got hit by your parents, you go to school, they hit you, your uncles hit you. We just assumed it was the most normal thing.
Hmm.
And some of them, when they come here, you see, this all has to do also with discrimination, racism, integrating into a society and everything. If you don't
Mm-hmm.
have a network and you are not integrated, you fail to realize that these methods are wrong. And
Mm-hmm.
many of these people, when they come here through asylum or so, they've already
Yeah.
made their negative experiences with the white people in authority over them. And we
Mm-hmm.
can't neglect that these things do exist. So
Yes.
you make these negative experiences, and you just have this suspicion. You're
Mm-hmm.
always suspicious. They don't really want my well-being or that of my child. And this is
Mm-hmm.
not even among uneducated
Mm-hmm.
uneducated parents alone, even
Mm-hmm.
educated people. Even
Mm-hmm.
I always
Mm-hmm.
weigh whatever anyone tells me, whether it's a doctor or so. It's natural that I weigh and say, are you really wanting to help my child, or are you trying to carry out an experiment now?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's part of our survival mechanism that we have had to have to build
Mm-hmm.
up, survive. So
Mm-hmm.
then you get paranoid. And this is what happens. This is why it's so important to integrate immigrants and let them have confidence and trust in you, because this lack of trust, I'm sure if people really knew Jugendamt is there to help me, more people would go there and really seek the help. But let's be honest, between me and you, some of the people there, they are really unfriendly.
Yes.
They don't want to accept that everything in Africa is like rubbish or wrong. They don't even understand that we know how to take care of our children. We know what food is right. See, so when they come and they have this attitude like, oh, you're from a backward place, so everything you're doing is backward. Then what happens on the side of the immigrants? The suspicion is there. So we need, and what the authorities should put in place is meeting people, a lot of immigrants working to reach out to immigrants. Because if such a case like the one you mentioned happened in this family, if an African worker from the Jugendamt would go into the family, should be able to convince them more of, well, in this case, they don't have a choice anyway, but it would be easier to reach out at the family. You know what I mean?
In this case, they didn't even have a choice. And anyway,
it would have been much easier if the Jugendamt, and I think these authorities, they have to change with the time, because the sad reality is that most of the children today here in Germany have an immigrant background.
yes.
Most of the children have. So you need to get workers that understand this background or are from this background. But they're not doing that. When you send a young girl from Jugendamt that isn't married, doesn't have a child, coming from maybe a very well-off German home into an immigrant family where the parents have been denied opportunities, what do you think can come out of it? You see? So
This is an
I want
amazing
to say
conversation.
Africans,
It's an amazing conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking today on child abuse, and we have the program Let's Help You, a program that we have developed together with our team to help us, the migrants, and especially the African migrants, to enlighten us in some of the difficult subjects and also all areas of our life so that we can better have it also here in Germany and make use of every opportunities. Today, we are talking on child abuse, and we are seeing the role of the youth officer in helping the parents to bring up the children, because most of the time we realize that young parents, or again migrants, are really really scared of the what we call the Jugendamt in German, but of course translated the youth officer and the youth services. And but their role according to the law is there to govern and to like overshadow, not really overshadow, but take care and see that everything is moving well. So we want to encourage you, parents out there, do not be scared of the youth service, the youth center. They are there to actually help you so that you can really, really bring that child in a way that the child will have all that it takes psychologically, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually to become what he or she is supposed to become. Let's welcome some of our guests. Today we have Osas Stefani Iora. I hope I pronounce your name very well. She says, oh, how I missed this. You've not missed it, Osas. You're still in the program, so you can watch it after. And then we have Nandi Ray, who says, this is surely child abuse. Accidentally, they hurt their child, but they knew that their child was home, and the emotional abuse too was bad enough. They did not care about their child. Yes, unfortunately, many parents are really, really in this situation. This is how we get some sociopaths out there, because children were exposed to such horrible environment. That's true. What do you think about this, Mommy Maria?
Yes, of course, that's true. Because ironically, children that are exposed to abuse end up being abusers themselves. So, and I think that like funny enough, many when I talk to friends or so and we discuss our childhood, a lot of people would say, "Oh, I didn't mind my father hitting me or my mother, but what I hated was the talking."
Mm-hmm.
So physical abuse, sometimes it's easier to come over than the emotional abuse. Of course, even from physical abuse, it goes to emotional abuse. You see, because it's not just that somebody hit you and your body is hurting you, but
Mm-hmm.
emotional abuse comes out of that physical abuse too. Am I this unworthy? Am I this that do you hate me
Oh, Maria, I hated when they would beat me.
you
I
understand?
hated that with passion.
So it's not only just the pain, but from that hitting comes not just a physical pain, but also an emotional pain. And
Yeah.
it's an emotional abuse when a child starts feeling unworthy, even just always complaining about a child. Or
Mm-hmm.
here, see, one other thing you see here parents have is this. Now we're in Europe. Oh, I've been cleaning. No, my child will not clean. So you start putting unnecessary stress expectation on the child. My child must go to gymnasium. My child must go to.
Oh, that is
But
another one. We have to
you
talk on
didn't
that.
even go. When you put undue expectation and pressure on a child, that's already an emotional abuse. Then you keep backing it up every day with threats. Why did you not get a good enough note? Why? That's abuse. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
good to always push
Watch your
children to
child, push
their
your
best,
child.
to see the best out of a child. But when you start having unrealistic goals for that child, and you start pushing, always every day the child is demotivated, a bad note. You come home, your parents give. So there's so many ways we abuse our children, physical and emotionally, just because also we are under pressure in the society. So
Yes, I like that word. Just because we are also under pressure in the society. Let me give you one word here from Elvis, who says, "Here in Africa, child abuse is considered as discipline." This got me laughing. I'm sorry to laugh, but this is a very serious topic. But this one just caught my emotions here. He says child abuse is considered as discipline in Africa. Maria, what can you say on this? Because you have been to in Africa.
um when in Rome, I
We
don't
do
think
like it.
I'm telling anybody now. Before people would jump ringing on my bed. But I tell you, I have a son that had hyperactivity at the ADHS. I used to
Mm-hmm.
say, goodness, if I can just take this boy on a flight, get to Nigeria,
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to leave the tarmac, give him a good beating and bring him back. So of course you always, when children are doing things, you always get tempted. Oh, if I could give, a teacher even told me
A
one,
solid
I
slap.
wish I could shake this boy and hit him against the wall. I looked at her and said, I know the feeling. But it's something you can learn and cultivate, not to hit a child. There's so many
That's
other
true.
ways of disciplining a child. Hitting
That's
is
true.
making it fast and easy for the parent and letting out the anger. But there are so
That's
many
true.
other ways you don't need to hit a child.
One of the teachers told me some time ago, "Oh, Maria, my boy, he will push you to the neck. When you're
Mhm.
getting to the wall and you cannot move again, you can't breathe." And then the teacher looked at me one day and said, for Sompon, you know, if your child was with me, I'm sure that I'll be tempted to give him a slap before I'll come back to be a
Yeah.
teacher, you know. So yes, Elvis, we understand what you mean. Nonetheless, we still consider it that it is child abuse. I remember that. I remember that my dad, if he's hearing, I'm sure my dad is watching. Daddy, I'm sure you're watching me now, but I have to still say this story. Oh, my dad got me beaten, eh? And when he was beating me, I think he was beating me with the intention that when I will grow up, I'm going to be beating my younger brothers and sisters to discipline them too. Now, when when they were growing and nothing was happening, and he was not beating them, and I'm looking at my dad, I said, "Dad, How come you got me so beaten? Auntie, I thought that you didn't even love me at all. My dad will beat you, and you know he was a police guy. He was a policeman, Maria. He can lift you up when he's beating you, eh? And then my dad's response was, I even thought that you were going to help me teach this your younger brothers and sisters when you grow up. I said, no, Dad, they are not my children. How do I beat them? And then he went for that. But when he came to Germany, then we had a conversation. I was telling him, but Dad, do you know these things really paint me? It really affected me. And I liked his response. He said, you know, some things we did, we really did not know what we're doing. We only had to do like we saw
What
people doing
everyone was
what
going to do.
everyone was doing, you know. But now, like this, I can't do the same things that I did. The information and the knowledge I have now, I cannot do what I was doing before. You know, and that's an elderly person, an old person, and now we are living in Germany, whereby the society is teaching us, helping us, and guiding us. Yet we have people who are ready to still mishandle the children, and then they back it up with some laws and with some words and with some. Now we are going into physical abuse. Now they are backing up with some religious quotes and all that. You know, I had a conversation when I watched one of your video. By the way, Maria, you also have a YouTube page. I always forget to mention that, Afri Trends in Diaspora, and you spoke one of the topics. You said you spoke on abuse
Spread
and
the
beating.
rod, yes.
Spare the rod. Now,
Yes.
and this is taking me gradually to that your video. So if you're here, ladies and gentlemen, maybe you can just hit the button
Mm,
Afri Trend in Diaspora. And Maria talks a lot about her life as well in her YouTube channels and all what she's gone through, the challenges, but as well the tips and the tricks on how you can overcome certain things and certain issues in life. Don't forget, Maria Kaina is a lawyer by profession, has also practiced law many years, also back in Nigeria. And here she's having 10, 11 children, 11 children, and has, I have to be careful to make mistake, 11 children. And so she has a bundle of experiences and enough information on that. And then she's also very spiritual. So do not forget that. And Maria, you said, what does it mean, spare the rod and spoil the child? I just have to ask this question because I know that our community people are listening to us. Most of them are very religious and they
mm,
always use this thing, spare the rod and spoil the child. And that's where they back up the reasons why they should beat children. What does this mean? Spare the rod and spoil the child.
Vera, as you said, I did a video on it. It's really long having to talk about it, but let me just be very brief. You see, like in The Lord is my shepherd, this psalm we all know. Thy
Mm-hmm.
rod and thy staff, they comfort me. So one has to go into the biblical meaning of what is the rod. The rod was a, a stick used by a shepherd to also protect his sheep from being attacked by wolves, to lead
Mm-hmm.
them into a row. So if you really go into the biblical meaning of that rod, it doesn't just mean um, flog the child, because that gives the impression that's the way to discipline the children. No, flog the children. And remember, even those things people are quoting, they are proverbs written by King Solomon. But look at the parables that Jesus tells about the prodigal son. What happened when the prodigal son came back? Did the father beat him? He made a
No.
feast for him. So
Mm-hmm.
the teaching of Christ in the Bible, or even if you go to the Quran or everything, it's not as if beating or using physical thing is the only or the right way to train a child. The paramount way is to exercise your authority by teaching this child and giving it the skills it needs to be a balanced adult everywhere. So that's
Mm-hmm.
what it's about. And parents hitting their children now, especially here in Germany. You've talked about the case of the Jugendamt taking away little children, but
Mm-hmm.
many of these children, when they get to a certain age, they tell the Jugendamt to take them out of the family.
Mm-hmm.
truth we have to admit. When they start getting to that puberty age, even as early as 9 and 10, they are requesting that they want to leave their families. And then they come into a home also where they have a lot more freedom to do what they like. So we always have to balance this thing, and to know that even that tyranny of hitting a child, it expires sooner than you expect. The child will turn around, and even in schools, when they sit there, you know what is the use of that? What do they call it? Exhale cries from kindergarten to see children
Yes.
speckled. Tell what happened on your weekend. What do you think that thing is all about? That is the method the kindergarten and the school get to hear if a child is being abused at home. That's all it's really about. The
Yes.
main thing behind those things, getting the children to talk. So as soon as your child goes into kindergarten and sits down and says, "Mama hit me yesterday," there's a problem.
Because the school can also report,
Of
right?
course,
Because not only the neighbors but the school. I have
yes,
a commentary here. Let's get what she's saying. Cavio get get rude says, I used to watch a that one program, the Angstkennen Eltern. So like the how do they put authority parents or difficult parents, I don't know, in the world, was a famous. And why then Germans used to take their high pitched or wayward children to Mexico, to Ghana, to Kenya, Maasai, rural areas, etc., and allow that discipline meted out their children. I don't know the discipline she means, but I guess she wants to say that the discipline in the continent of the Africa continent and other parts is very important. But you are still here with us, Cavio. So maybe you write exactly what discipline, if she's talking
yeah.
about the beating, because I don't know if she's talking about the beating,
But there
but I'm
was
not,
no, no.
but
They
I'm not
went
too
to those
sure.
children there. They were being disciplined, but discipline and hitting. Discipline is not wrong, but physically hitting a child is wrong. But
That's what many people don't always get it, my mommy Maria. Sorry for cutting you, but I
yeah,
have the impression that whenever we are talking on this issue of beating, people think that beating means discipline. Do you
yeah,
know that we have come to the stage whereby when you beat a child too much, the child, when you want to do again, the child just said the next thing you do is beat me. He just show you the shoulder, beat me, because that's what you know how to do. Have
mm,
you disciplined that child? Actually,
no,
you have really not disciplined that child again. If you get to the point where the child himself or herself shows himself to you, beat me,
mm,
because that's all they know you do. And therefore, well, if you would like to beat me, I can still go on doing. That doesn't stop that we discipline children. Discipline a child doesn't mean beating a child is not necessarily meaning that is the only way to discipline a
no,
child. That's what we are trying to say. And then we are asking the question of the spare the rod, because most of the time people refer to that Bible verse that it
yeah,
means that you should beat a child. That rod means beat a child. But if the rod simply means discipline a child, then of course we have to discipline our children. Because
children.
if you do not discipline your child, then you're going to be having a shishopat, like one of our viewers said, in the
Mm.
future, and that will be detrimental for the
So
society
child
again.
abuse. If you don't discipline your child and teach it the necessary skills it needs, like the child can stay at home, doesn't go to school or so, that's also child abuse, not disciplining a child. But the discipline has to be within what is acceptable, methods that are acceptable. And now, as she was talking of this program, if you watch the program and look at the parents of those children, you see that these are children that come out of families where the situation is already very difficult. See, one thing I've noticed, many Africans seem to think Germans don't discipline their children. No, it depends on
Hmm.
what Germans you meet.
Exactly.
Not to discipline
Exactly.
themselves well trained, or have a career, or even workers, people that own their companies are working hard. You need to see the amount of discipline there.
Oh
Even
yes.
more discipline than in our family.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
we have this false impression, but it always depends which Germans are you meeting. Now, of course, when you come from Africa, likely most of us don't have good jobs and everything. So which kind of Germans are you associating with? Which kind of
That's
Germans
it.
in your neighborhood? But that
Mm-hmm.
does not reflect on the German society.
Exactly.
Like in Africa too, only families where there's a difficult background and everything, do you see this lack of discipline? In other families, no, they work on it. They
Exactly.
even more
Exactly.
serious than we. You see them, the child must go to bed at 8. It's 8 o'clock.
Exactly. It's discipline.
Yes.
And
So
that's discipline.
yeah, that's a false impression we have that in this society, children are not disciplined. No, that's not correct. Always
Now,
depends on the family you're looking at.
but if you say they are not disciplined, how come they go to bed 8 p.m.? How come they have to get up at 6 o'clock? How come they have to eat at 12 o'clock? How come they have to eat at 6 p.m.? How
No
come they have to
television,
put
no
on no
television.
television? I mean, how do you say they are not disciplined when they do not even watch television? They only have maybe a program at the weekend. I mean, those that I have come to know, they watch a program only at the weekend and not even up to an hour or two. I mean, how do you say they are not disciplined?
Yes, that's the false impression. You see, this is all what when there's this the need of having networks where all
Yeah.
these things, where you get this reliable information and people can exchange ideas. That's why I find all these networks, especially now on Facebook group coming out and people exchanging ideas. Then, of course, having people like you working in the professional field is very, very important to reveal the truth to people so that
Mm-hmm.
they can use the truth and act on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you, Mama Maria. Today again, Nandi says that the rod here could be seen like representing authority. The one
Precisely.
who holds the rod is the authority. He or she
Exactly.
guides and protects, make sure rules are obeyed. Thank you very much. That was a
Exactly.
powerful one. That's what it should mean. And it means that there should be discipline. And then the rod here doesn't actually mean the cane itself.
Mm,
And she goes further and said, parenting is not an easy affair, but if we get balance, neither restrictive nor permissive, just the right measure of discipline, we will succeed with the help of God. Thank you
mm.
so much. Maria, do you have a last word for our people? We're rounding soon. 1 hour is always quick.
Yes, that's what I would say. I would just say, as a parent, we will always make mistakes. Don't be, when you make mistakes, don't be afraid to look for help. There's
Mhm,
always someone out there, organizations, people, network, who can help you, because parenting is like a learning on the job thing.
mhm,
So don't be afraid when you make mistakes. Just seek help. Even if you are emotionally not. I had a neighbor upstairs with a little child, always crying, screaming. I just went up to her and I told her, listen, you don't need to give me any excuse. Just knock
mhm,
on my door, push your child in and go. But don't hurt your child. And
mhm.
half an hour later, she knocked on my door, pushed the child in and left.
You
And
see?
yes. And she started doing that. And after some time, we started talking and I started giving her advice how she can seek help. So don't be afraid to make mistakes, seek help. And if you
Wow.
are an African sister or brother out there, if you see in your environment or your community a mother that needs help, don't condemn, don't judge,
Mhm.
just offer help.
Amen. Thank you so much, Maria. I mean, I just had to say amen. You know, the spiritual me always get into these things all the time. So I just had to say amen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We've come again to the end of this wonderful program. Let's Help You is a program we are bringing every Wednesday to you so that we can converse, have difficult conversations, but conversations that are healing and helpful so that we can be able to bring up our children and also help ourselves the way it's intended to be. We meet again next week, same time, with another guest speaker, and I'm very sure you like our conversation. God bless you and see you then. Bye bye.
Bye.